It's still kind of off. On Ruins, the finals has finally been released with one of its largest issues only partially resolved. The sights in the crosshair are not always accurate to where the weapons fire from. I made a video on the topic back in the open beta, but assuming you haven't seen that, I'll re-explain the issue. The weapons in the finals always fire out of the center of the screen. However, the view models of the sights move with actions performed in-game like walking, jumping, reloading, and even standing still. This means the place where the sights are aiming at and the point where weapons will fire from are often separate points on the screen. Walking makes the sights bob back and forward, jumping moves the sights down slightly, reloading does all sorts of weird stuff, and standing still gives a slight bobbing animation. The sights' movement while strafing is the biggest issue. The bobbing back and forth moves the sights on certain guns pretty aggressively. Moving and strafing is so prevalent in fights that at best it makes the sights feel strange to use, and at worst it makes the player miss shots that look like they should have connected. This affects different guns in different ways since the game's official launch. Here's an approximate chart of relevant weapons. The x-axis is how much the sights are affected by a player's movement, and the y-axis is the approximate fire rate. Fire rate matters because higher fire rate weapons can track the target based on their previous shots, making the wobbly sights not as much of a problem. The F-car is pretty comfortably the best weapon by these two metrics. It has stable sights compared to the rest of the game's guns, and does so with a holographic sight, which gives a very clear sight picture. The SR-84 is easily the most negatively affected weapon though. Its sights can be completely inaccurate on the game's slowest firing gun. No weapon is perfect, and even the F-car's sights stray from the point where it will fire. The crosshair is what I've been calling dynamic, meaning it moves with actions performed in-game. Running, jumping, crouching, sliding, reloading, firing, or throwing consumables all causes the crosshair to move from the center point of the screen. This means that using the crosshair to pre-aim a target before aiming down sights can result in a missed shot. I want to point out this is different from Bloom, the effect where a crosshair grows or shrinks based on the spread of the weapon being used. The game's limited crosshair settings can also cause problems. Some weapons remove the 4 lines on the crosshair like the melee weapons. The player has the option to manually remove the dot in the center, which gives a clearer sight picture. This comes to a head at one weapon, the throwing knives. The newest weapon in the game at the time of recording removes the 4 lines in the crosshair, so if the player has the dot disabled, they will have no crosshair with a weapon that needs it. First, I'll mention some progress has been made here since the open beta. The dynamic crosshair when working the action of weapons like the SR-84 has been removed, which wasn't noted in the patch notes. Also, the jumping, falling, and zipline animations have been redone already and are significantly better. The jumping animation is still a little off, but this doesn't matter because of another section of the patch notes that says updated bullet dispersion system on all weapons when aiming down sights. I don't know why they're using these weird terms, but bullet dispersion system means spread. Spread is the random deviation of shots. In the open beta, the weapons were not perfectly accurate in the air, but they were pretty close. Weapons when jumping are now much less accurate, meaning there is practically no need for accurate sights specifically when jumping. This means the jumping sights are kind of fixed in a really inelegant way. The sights still need their animations redone. These animations need to focus on gameplay over aesthetics, and I think a balance can be struck here. There are few modern movement shooters like the finals and fewer with the ability to aim down sights, but Apex Legends fits both these criteria. The way Apex handles their weapon animations when aiming down sights is ideal. Their animations always have the sights in the center of the screen and still have some animations reacting to actions the player does. The finals should adopt a similar philosophy in redesigning the animations. Another solution some have mentioned is to align the point where weapons fire from with the sights, not the other way around. This would mean if a player is strafing, the point where weapons fire from would bob back and forward with the sights. This is called sway, and it's practically unheard of in a movement shooter. The games that incorporate sway are more realistic tactical shooters like Hunt Showdown. Adding realism to a game does not necessarily improve the game. In a movement shooter, movement should not be punished, and weapons should be as consistent as possible. I think that the suggestion would not work in the finals, but it is a possible solution to the problem with the sights. Moving on, the crosshair settings need an overhaul. I want to see 2 major changes to the crosshair system. The first are options to disable crosshair movement. There should be a simple setting to enable or disable the dynamic crosshair, the crosshair moving with the player's actions. There should also be a setting to enable or disable bloom, the effect where the crosshair grows or shrinks based on the spread of the weapon being used. Second, the crosshair settings need an overhaul. The players currently have the option between a crosshair with a large gap or a crosshair with a dot in the center. There is no option to use a dot crosshair, a circle crosshair, or a short crosshair. The real tease for those that like dot crosshairs is that melee weapons and throwing knives use them, so it's already in the game. I assume that Embark does not want infinite crosshair options like the ability to upload any PNG, so I'd recommend looking at Overwatch's crosshair system for inspiration. The absolute dream would be a system that would save crosshairs based on the weapon being used and the ability to share crosshairs, but more crosshair options in general would go a long way. All of these issues have one controversial solution in the community. Third-party crosshairs are programs that place a fully customizable PNG crosshair on the screen. Players can disable the crosshair in-game by setting crosshair opacity to 0 and then use one of these programs to place a functioning crosshair on the screen. This fixes most of the issues with the sights in the crosshair in-game, but Embark's stance is that third-party crosshairs are disallowed. This was first mentioned on Halloween by Walker, a community manager, and never mentioned again by Embark staff for many weeks to my knowledge. Sometime after December 16th, multiple messages from community managers were written explaining these programs are disallowed and that using them can get accounts banned. The same effect though can be had by using a monitor setting to place a crosshair on the screen, and this is completely undetectable. A lot of modern gaming monitors come with this setting, and if yours doesn't have it or you're playing on console, you can always put a piece of tape in the middle of your screen. I ask Embark to look at what the community is trying to fix here, and to fix it on the game side. Make the game so third-party crosshairs are completely unnecessary. No game should require external software to fix such a glaring issue with the way the visuals and the mechanics interact. The sights should be accurate to where the weapons fire from. The crosshair should be the center point of a player's aim, and settings should be added to give a player options to change their crosshair. Thanks guys. Take it easy. Also, crosshair settings are under 2 different tabs in the options. I don't know why.